My name is Shani Senbetta. I graduated from the School of Foreign Service in 2006, and I majored in international policy. I'm a senior associate for a business management consulting firm.
And what does a consultant do?
So I guess there are different types of consulting, obviously. My company specializes in supply chain management and strategic sourcing projects. So basically, in very simple terms, we help companies buy things more efficiently. So for example, right now I'm working at, the client's name is Kellogg's, actually, it's not a secret, so the cereal company Kellogg's, and they're, globally they have the price of their key commodities like corn and rice and wheat have gone up a lot. So they're looking at how do they cut costs by improving the way they buy things in general. And so it's a global project, and I was assigned to the European part of it. So what we're looking at is across Europe, what do they spend in an average year? And where are the opportunities to buy that more efficiently, either by leveraging volumes across all of Europe, or by diversifying their supplier base, or by negotiating stronger contracts, and all of that. And really what it is in Europe is because all the different companies are buying independently or working independently, we're trying to centralize that practice and do it in a way that will allow them to monitor, instilling the best practices, which will allow them to monitor their pricing for a long term and kind of evaluate their suppliers over the long term. So I want to get an MBA, and I wanted to have a job that gave me a little bit of experience in the corporate world, so that I'd know a little bit of what I was talking about when I got to business school. But also, I want to work in international development. That's pretty broad, but probably something to do in Africa, maybe with children's education. But when I was looking for jobs, I was at first looking for jobs in international development and some NGO in the city, in DC. But when I went and talked to them about my experience and graduated from Georgetown, got good grades, have good experiences over the summers, and I got a lot of feedback saying if you come to this job right now, you're just going to be photocopying papers and doing really basic things, and maybe you won't be challenged enough. And so when I asked, what do you need? What kind of skills are you looking for? A lot of them said business skills and, kind of corporate world experience. And so I took that feedback and decided I would interview at some of the consulting firms that were coming on campus. And so actually, initially was just going kind of to practice my interview skills, but ended up really liking the man who was interviewing me, who happened to be a Georgetown MBA alum, and he really turned me on to the company. It's a really small company, but it just seemed really personable, great people, good experience to grow quickly. Well, I posted my resume on the Hoya Career Connections, and then I was called for an interview. So just came to the Career Center, did the first round of interviews, and then after that round, they invited me to second rounds. So I actually went to the office, which is outside of New York City, for the day, and did kind of 4 back-to-back interviews. I think one thing that's unique about consulting interviews are the case-style interviews that they do. So that's more where they give you a problem or kind of a scenario and have you think through it so that they can hear just your logic and thought process. So I did that, and it gave me an opportunity to get a feel for the company and see, where would I be working on a daily basis, and what are the kind of people that I'd be working with, and where would I live, all those types of considerations. But I did like the place. I just got a good feel from it, and it's hard to know for sure, at the time, especially when I found out I did get an offer. There are tons of questions running through my head, like, do I really want to do this? And there are pros and cons to it, and it kind of felt like I was signing my life away by signing the contract. But but kind of my gut feeling was you should do this. It's a good opportunity. And so I did accept the offer. I got offered the position in October, and I was given about 4 or 5 weeks to accept the offer or decline the offer. And then really I just had the spring semester to relax, and then started my job in August. At my company, and I think it's a similar track at other consulting companies, is you start off as an associate, or some companies call them an analyst, and that's like the bottom of the barrel. And you're asked to go work on an assignment, and so most client engagements will have a team of people on them, and you'll have the partner who's kind of one of the owners of the consulting company, who has a lot of the knowledge and really focus a lot of time on business development and client relationships. And then you'll have a senior manager on your project, a manager, maybe a couple associates, and then a couple analysts. And so when I started in August, I was assigned to my first client site, which was actually a government client, the Department of Justice. So I worked with the Department of Justice here in DC, and really just spent a lot of time doing a lot of just number crunching in Excel, data entry, and kind of analyzing the information as they told me to. I was kind of really following instructions. And then really the development pattern is being able to take the data and kind of make something of it yourself and analyze it on your own. Being able to clearly identify what the problems are, what the solutions could be, being able to create presentations and communicate that to the client in a way that makes sense. And then you kind of go and become senior associate, which is what I am now. And maybe that'll take 1 year or 2 years. And then you can become a manager. That'll take maybe 3 years. And I believe most people then go off and do their MBA, because that's kind of a good time to do it. And sometimes your company will pay for it for you if you will commit a couple years afterwards to them. Or my company, for example, will pay for my graduate studies as long as I'm working part-time at the same time. And then you can become a senior manager, and then maybe after like 5 years or 10 years, you can become a partner. So the growth track's different for everyone depending on your own competencies, but that's generally how it works. Oh, what I love about my job is, well, the travel is really nice because typical consulting engagement is you go to the client. If you're in the U.S., you go to the client site Monday through Thursday, and then you fly home. So I've had engagements in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and San Francisco. So that's been really fun to just see different parts of the country, all on the company's bill, and stay in really fun places. But in terms of the work specifically, being a consultant is fun because you go into the company as a third party, and you really just start asking a lot of questions. And sometimes I feel like a reporter because going to different areas and talking to marketing one day, talking to the logistics people one day, talking to the factory people one day, and just kind of asking them about how do they work and how can we do it differently. And of course, a lot of consultants face resistance because usually they're coming in either because the company themselves couldn't do it or they need to change some kind of a practice. And so you feel a lot of resistance, and they're like, you're an outsider, what are you doing coming here and telling us how to do things? So trying to manage that relationship and, to get to know them or listen to what they're saying and try to, make them feel like we're gonna work together, we're gonna get through this together and make your life easier, but also help the company's, broader goals. And so that's been fun to learn. It's something that I think you get better at over time. And it's a good job to develop those types of skills because you're constantly doing it, and it's tight timelines, so you're doing it quickly. It is long hours, but at least you get a big return in the end.